I'm so glad. First of all, let me thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm very excited about it, and I'm also very honored to be speaking at this Tech and Culture Speaker Series. Thank you to yourself as well as Marcus for the opportunity. So what I do today is I currently serve as a quality program manager at Lockheed Martin. And basically, I am responsible for quality on my program. So I have to make sure that there's a quality plan. I ensure that all of the departments are adhering to the quality requirements either per our procedures and policies or per the governmental and DFAR regulations. And so my role in my position currently is really around quality and compliance for my particular program, and that is all aspects of program quality that you can think of for a program and program management.
Awesome.
That's not bad.
Yeah, we're going to get into more things.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch it to Dr. Erica Mitchell, if you can do a quick introduction.
Okay, so I'm Dr. Erica Mitchell. I'm the Critical Infrastructure Key Resources Research Group Leader. It's like a really fancy title, but really what I do is I look at the cybersecurity aspects of the critical infrastructure sector. So like your power generation, your water and wastewater treatment, financial services, and kind of look at how we can better secure those things, and not just from like a technical perspective, but also from a human factors perspective, and how to get the right people talking to each other to have this holistic program where you secure things and share information in a quick fashion. And I'm also a professor. So today was my first day of school. This is the first time that I've taught as a professor of my own class. When I was in my PhD program, I taught a few times, but I have 18 cadets who I am teaching CY 105, which is just information technology. So
well,
that's what I do.
Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, throughout this whole webinar, I'm just going to be smiling because this is what I love right here, right? Like finding new people and talking to them about the things that they're doing. So congratulations on your first day. Was it virtually or?
So we're doing a hybrid. So I had 9 cadets in the room and then 9 cadets back in their rooms.
Okay, awesome. So I want to kick it off with where you ladies are from. Latisia, where are you from?
Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. I am from Syracuse, New York. So I am from right here in this area, born and bred and still here and thriving, I must say.
I love it. Did you ever think about leaving?
Of course I did. Of course I did. So I had dreams of leaving actually for college.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize, for some reason, I didn't realize once you go from high school to college, school is no longer free. Yep. So once I made that realization, I started considering, okay, well, what schools will I go to? And there were a number of schools that were on the list of desirable schools for me to attend, but it really came down to money. I didn't grow up having a lot of money. And so I didn't have my option to just go anywhere I wanted. And the state schools, you know, with the funding that's here for a resident, as well as the scholarships that I was able to obtain by attending Syracuse City School District and, you know, achieving the grades that they wanted to see for Syracuse University entrance, I was able to get into Syracuse University. So I actually had dreams of leaving here for college, but then I stayed here for college, and then I just continued on that journey here in Syracuse.
Well, I'm so happy you stayed.
Yeah.
So thank you for staying. Dr. Erica, where are you from? And are you local here or?
So I'm not. I am from Louisville, Kentucky, and my first intro to Syracuse was back in 2010. I came here for my master's degree and spent 2 years there. My son was actually born there at St. Joe's. He's 9 now. And then I left to go back to Maryland, and then I had the opportunity to go do my PhD. because like Latisia, I didn't come from money. So my bachelor's was free by going to West Point. My master's was free because the Army paid for me to go to Syracuse. And then my PhD was also free because the Army paid for me to go back to Syracuse and get my PhD. So I have lived in Syracuse for a total of 5 years out of the last, I guess, 10.
Dr. Erica, what will make you stay here? You keep coming back. You keep leaving us.
So actually what's really funny is when I lived there, I had 2 houses. So I had like an investment property and the one that I lived in. Actually, I lived in both at various times. I wouldn't mind coming back. The cost of living is so much more reasonable, but I really, really, really don't like winter. Winter was rough. Like I remember one time we got like 20 inches of snow and had 1 day off from school and then we had to go back. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's life in Syracuse. That's what it is. It's life in Syracuse. Where are you now? I think I missed it.
I'm in Monroe, which is about 30 minutes away from West Point and about an hour and 5 minutes away from Manhattan.
Okay. So a little bit
So
better.
you still get some cold weather.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just
But not the snow.
No lake effect snow down here.
That's the difference.
So I want to talk a little bit about how did you ladies get into tech? Like, was there a point in your life that you were like, biochemistry, Latisia, or for you, Dr. Erica, like, what was it? When was it? What was it? And what was your experience in school? I could start with Latisia since you're on mute.
Oh, sure. So I don't really know how it all happened. I remember, though, being fascinated by numbers as a young person. And so I would have like flashcards and I would, play with them and try to figure out what the answers were and things like that. So I remember that as growing up as a young child and listening to recordings, kind of like songs, but it was math equations. My grandparents were very smart in that way. They made math fun. And so I would listen to these recordings of equations and reciting them. And so that was an introduction to math for me in song form. And so I kind of got into it that way. And then I started to get attention around the work that I was doing. And what child doesn't like attention, right? So I would be doing math and I would be doing well in it. And so I started to get some attention. So I just kind of increased sort of my interest in it through that way. And then once I got to high school, I took an interest in science and math as well. And so it just kind of came together that way. But I was always interested in natural sciences. And so it just made sense to me. And I'm a very logical person and I wanted things to make sense. And so it was a natural gravitation for me to science and to math because I could always make it make sense. For certain other things, I couldn't. And that was maybe a little bit more difficult for me. And I think, people use different sizes of their brain maybe at different times. And certainly as a young child, I wanted things to make sense. And so that's kind of how I got into math and STEM and science and, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Dr. Erica, how did you get into your field?
So for me, it started when I was about 6 years old. My mom used to go into work on the weekends and at her job, they had a Wang mainframe. And I was like, ooh, neat. What is this thing? So, that was the first computer that I ever touched. My library had like Apple IIe's. And so I was always interested in how tech worked. I was fascinated by it. And I was fortunate enough to go to schools where, where I went for middle school, and it actually started in 5th grade, but where I went to school had a IBM lab, they had a Mac lab, they had an Apple lab, and they also had back then it was called IBM Compatibles, but it was Tandy's. Yeah, I'm dating myself a little bit here. But
yeah, I don't know what that is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So a Tandy is a really, really old PC.
Okay.
But anyway, my first job was when I was 6, with those Wang mainframes. My mom's boss used to want to we had to format disks before we could use them back then. God, I feel really old right now. You know that little save icon, that disc shape? Well, they used to be like 5 1/4 floppies that were about this big before they went down to the 3.5s. So my first paid job was actually formatting 5 1/4 floppy disks way back in the day.
Mhm.
That's
And
very
so,
impressive.
yeah, I stuck with it. I've always liked it. My high school had computer labs. And when I went to college, I was actually a law major with an environmental engineering minor.
Wow.
But yeah,
Mm.
long story, but was fortunate to get selected for Signal Corps, which put me right back into the tech field.
Mm.
Awesome. We have some audience members saying they remember those floppy disks and they're right there with you. So you have a support team right here in this group.
Shout out to my old folks.
Hey, you are as young as you feel. So age is just a number when you're old.
You know,
So
Liza, it's really interesting to hear how people get sort of introduction to things and it kind of sticks with them. And it's funny
yep.
that sometimes it happens from a very young age. You gravitate, don't even really know why, right? You gravitate towards a certain thing and then you end up exploring that as a career. Most people know very early on, you know, what they might be interested in and follow that. So it's interesting to see that that was something that for Dr. Erica, it was very similar for her as well.
Yes, that's awesome. So your experience in college as Black women in that field of study, Latisia, tell me a little bit about that. What was your experience? I would love to know, because of the work that I do, what kind of support did you have that you thought was very essential, or what support did you wish you had when you were going to college?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I think that without the support that I did have, actually right there on campus, I don't know that I would have stayed. It was a very different environment from the environment that I was coming from. Having gone through the Syracuse City School District, most of the students, as well as the teachers and administrators, they were all persons of color. And so I was surrounded by that from pre-K to 12th grade. And then I go to a, institution where that was certainly not the case. And in fact, I mean, my first class, I could count the number of Black people, I would say, in the auditorium, quite a bit more persons of color. But so it was a very isolating experience, I would say, to start. But I did have a lot of support. I went through a program called Student Supportive Services at Syracuse University. And this program was offered to Syracuse City School District students that excelled in their studies. And they offered not only financial support, but also mentorship as well as career guidance. And I can't say enough for those kinds of programs, specifically for students that are coming from the environments in which are similar to the environment that I'm coming from. And so I would go into that office and I would talk about things that I was experiencing, things that I wasn't quite sure about how to handle, what I should do if I was falling behind in my grades or my classes, who I could reach out to. Like it was like having parents on campus, kind of, so it was a support system like that. And like I said, it's different when you're coming from an environment. And I know that there have been a lot of studies on this because I pay attention to these kinds of studies and how access is not the same for everyone, because access is not enough. Access as well as opportunity, as well as understanding, as well as fitting in, having those support systems and things like that are also critical, specifically for people of color.
Thank you, Latisia.
Yeah.
Dr. Erica, similar question for you. And I want to also ask you, when you were going to SU, did you ever come down from the hill into the community?
Absolutely, because
Okay.
I lived out there. My kids went to school in SU, or in the community. So yes, I was out there. one of the houses that I lived in was in Strathmore, and the other one was in the Valley. So, yeah, but it was like, yeah, but it was right below Van Dyne. Like, I mean, it literally, my backyard bordered whatever the top of the hill is. But yeah, my backyard bordered Van Dyne's boundaries. But yeah, so I mean, I was out there, and I'll say, like, growing up in Louisville, I grew up in predominantly Black neighborhoods up until I hit about 5th grade. But I went to predominantly white schools because Louisville still had mandatory busing when I was a kid. Like, it was still going on in the 2000s, and now they've modified it a bit, but they kind of recognized the, you know, flight to suburbia, and weren't very tolerant of people being able to run away from diversity. So, you know, they had busing. The one year I did go to a predominantly Black school, I saw so clearly the difference in resourcing, the difference in opportunities, and I was only in 3rd grade. And it was like night and day from the school that I had gone to the years prior and the school that I ended up going back to. And then I went to a different school that was K through 12 for 5th through 7th grade, and that was diverse. And it was also a magnet, well, not really a magnet school, but you had to apply and get accepted. And now it's in the top 50 of high schools in the US. So it wasn't back then, but, you know, now it is, and that's cool. And
It's a way to get there.
right. And so I was able to be around other high achieving people of color, and it wasn't unusual, you know, the way when I was in, you know, my previous, you know, predominantly white school, like I was alone most of the time, or almost alone. But then for high school, I went to a private school. It was predominantly white. There were no real racial issues there, but I learned to move in a different space than I had grown up in or was used to, where you had children of senators and lawyers and doctors and, you know, CEOs of corporations, and you learn to move different, you know, and it's not about denying who you are, but I'll say I've felt like a chameleon most of my life, and, you know, code switching and all of that. But, you know, you have to learn to move in the environment you're in, which prepared me for West Point, because my class, I'm not going to say what year, but we only had 5 Black women that graduated out of over 1,000 cadets that year. So it was very, as Latisia said, it's isolating. And it's not that I didn't feel unsupported. I had been used to operating in those spaces, but did I notice that there weren't very many of us? Absolutely. And, you know, even now working in tech, for the Army Cyber Institute, I am the only Black female in the Army Cyber Institute. I am the only Black person in the Army Cyber Institute, you know? So out of 64 people, it used to be 70, I am the only one. And when it's time for me to rotate out, there's nobody backfilling me. I'm not of color, and definitely not a woman of color. So, you know, I've been trying to do my best this year to really, you know, influence as many cadets as possible to show them what is possible, and that we're out there, and we may be few and far between, but we're not going to get any bigger until we can produce more in the pipeline.
That's a perfect segue to for you ladies to kind of elaborate your experience and the work that you do right now. We're going to jump back to Latisia. Tell me a little bit about navigating, right? It's about navigation, your career in tech.
Yeah, I will probably mirror some of what Dr. Erica was saying about the experience of lots of times being the only one or one of very few. I had a conversation, because the company that I work for now is fairly newer. I'm about 1.5 years or so in. And I had a conversation with one of my friends about the experience that I had. And the experience was, one of the very first meetings that I had, I walked into a conference room, and literally, I counted, there were 15 men, white men, and then myself. And this is like, I'm new to this company. I don't know these people. I mean, I'm a quality program manager, so I'm a lead for quality, but these are leads in different areas, whether it's subcontract management, engineering or whatever, there's different leads. And there's a skin that you have to develop in these sorts of environments where you don't have someone sitting across the room that maybe looks like you, or you can say that person may have had a similar experience as me, or maybe thinking the same thing as me, or a similar thing as me. Like that, just familiarity, I think, is something that is lost in corporations where you don't have a diverse environment. And then it also breeds insecurity. It breeds a sense of, do I really belong here? Am I worthy? Am I valued? What is the person next to me thinking? When I open my mouth as a Black woman sitting in a room of 15 white men, am I being taken seriously? And that, some of that is internal, right? Because it's just natural maybe to have some of those thoughts. No one really did anything at that time anyway, to make me feel that way. But that is what happens in these environments when you don't have diversity. And my real concern for younger people, I've been in industry for a long time. That was still a little bit stark for me, but I've been in industry for a long time. But you imagine a young person coming into that environment and feeling like, whoa, what did I get myself into? This is maybe not for me. Maybe I made the wrong choice here. And it's the same thing going into math classrooms or advanced studies classrooms, or these different environments where you don't have that diversity, but you expect for people to come in and feel comfortable. Well, you have to kind of create that lane for them too. And I'm hoping, and I'm seeing a lot of changes happen within corporations, and I'm a part of that, championing diversity within these corporations, so that when people do come into these environments, they still have a safe space. Even if they are the only one in the room, there's someone in the building, in the vicinity, someone there that they can call upon, talk to, conversate about the experience that they may be having in these certain environments. But like I mentioned, it can be a very isolating one. But one of the biggest things that people of color can do is to realize that you can have allies in anyone. And so even though you may be in these environments where you may not have people that look exactly like you or have these same experiences as you, I've found that there's a lot more commonality that you can have with people when you start opening up to them. And it's just a process. This is what it is in tech right now. And like Dr. Erica, I'm really hoping and trying and reaching to younger individuals to pull them in and show them technology and show them that it can be a great career for them, but to also have them understand that this is what it is, but to not be afraid of that. And there are resources and support for them.
Thank you, Latisia. Dr. Erica, same question to you. You mentioned navigating through school, being a Black woman. What about the work that you're doing now? You talk a little bit about that, but can you elaborate a little bit more?
So before I do that, I do want to send a special shout out to the iSchool at Syracuse, because there was more diversity there than I had seen, from when I went to West Point. Even in the PhD program, where it's a much smaller population, I can't name a time where there wasn't at least one or two Black PhD students, unless, a bunch of them graduated together. But, and it was never forced. It was never like, oh, well, we need to go out and get diversity. Like, they were able to do it very organically. Mm-hmm. And so I do have to give them all the credit in the world, because it was very different than what I had experienced prior. And that's both at master's and PhD level. So now to talk about now, I spend a lot of time as the only, as I kind of mentioned, and part of that is a function of being in the military. Women make up just over 20% of the total military population as it stands. So being a woman is going to be small. I'm an officer, so Black officers make up approximately 9 to 11% of the officer corps in any given year. So we're coming from small percentages to start with. And then, being in tech, so I'm not a cyber officer. We have a cyber branch. I'm still Signal Corps, but I have the information systems management specialty. And within information systems management, we are also very, very small. Women make up approximately 14% of that branch. In the cyber branch, women make up 6% overall. That's counting officers and enlisted. And that's actually part of my research is understanding why they're not in cyber. So it's a huge problem. I can't tell you how many rooms I've been in where I have been the only woman. I have been the only Black person. I have been the only Black woman. I spend a lot of time as the only. For my project before COVID-19, I was down in DC at the Pentagon probably at least 6 times a year, sometimes more often. And yes, very much alone, going into those types of rooms. And typically I was the lowest ranked person there too, which was kind of funny. And so it's tough to navigate because it's hard to imagine a higher position for yourself when you don't see anybody else there. You want to go on, you want to do great things, you want the sky to be the limit, but when you look up and as you go higher and higher, it becomes less and less diverse. You start to question whether there's room for you to grow as much as you can.
That's really deep, Dr. Erica. And you both mentioned kind of like you can't be what you can't see, right? So like you both are literally paving the way for the next generation. And I think that's so important because although the youth are the future, I keep hearing the youth are the present. I've seen them, COVID, they somehow, some way taught us how to do this virtual tech thing, and then they killed it, and then they graduated.
Yeah.
So what is what keeps you going? Like it's hard, right? It's challenging. What is that? There has to be that one thing why you keep going. What is that one thing? Latisia?
You're talking about what is the why, right? What is your why?
Yep.
And I have so many of those, and I have them in different areas of my life. But I mean, it ultimately comes down for me to, I have little people coming behind me, and it is not an option for them to give up. So it's definitely not an option for me to. I know when because I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, when they were younger even, I'm telling them about, go for your dreams, do whatever you want to do, say whatever you want to say. I'm telling them all of these things, but then not doing it. And I'm like, well, that's inauthentic. And so there came a time for me when I said, well, if I want the world for my children, why don't I want the world for myself? And it'd be a lot better if I showed them how to get it than it would be for me to tell them how to get it. And so it was a complete mindset change, I think, for me in advancing in my career even, and switching jobs and changing roles for one, and then even in switching jobs and just coming to the realization that, you know what, I am worthy. The individuals that are in the positions that I want to be in, sure, they don't look like me, but they will because I will be there. And just like I said, the why just really comes down to them each and every time, and knowing that I can't tell them to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So if I'm going to tell them to ball hard, then I need to do it myself. And that's kind of what it comes down to for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You ball hard, Latisia, okay? No choice. Dr. Erica, what's your why?
So mine's similar. One thing that's different, I joined the Army to make a difference. And, you know, as a 17-year-old kid starting West Point, I didn't know what that difference was going to be. You know, I had to figure out my way. I, you know, tried a lot of different things and eventually graduated. But, you know, it was always about, how do I help others? How do I help people? And so right now, the research I'm working on, you know, it's not just Army implications, it's entire US implications. How do we protect ourselves from an adversary coming in and causing havoc and, you know, disrupting our power systems and things like that? You know, I don't know if you guys got hit at all. We got hit with like the Latisias leftovers, and some of my neighbors were without power for over a week. And that was natural disaster. But imagine if it was something cyber, and it was a lot harder to bring it back up than bringing in lineman crews and getting new lines put up. So, you know, my passion to help people, even if it's not necessarily like medical or things like that, but to help people and to make the world a better place is, you know, my biggest work why. But I also have 3 kids. Well, I also have kids. I have 3 of them, 12, 9, and 6. And I want them to see a mom that loves them very much, but is also out there trying to do good things for the world. My 9-year-old is probably the one that's going to follow in my footsteps with tech. So he loves programming. He does Minecraft modding. He learned some JavaScript programming. You know, he's totally into it, robotics, all of that stuff. My youngest, who's 6, she's a little firecracker, but she's probably going to be the one who follows in my footsteps with military. And then my oldest is like a natural born leader who wants nothing to do with the military. And I'm totally cool with it. I'm like, go lead other things. You have this presence and this leadership ability. So go out there and lead something somewhere and just be the best at it. So, you know, I want them to see that all you have to do is put one foot in front of the other. Like, if you have a dream, you don't have to achieve it all in one bite. Just don't give up and keep putting that one foot in front of the other until you get where you want to be.
Absolutely. Going back to the work that I do, and Erica, Dr. Erica, you come in to school here, leaving. Latisia, you staying here. Let me see how I can frame this. What are some things that Syracuse should start doing? What kind of programs or supports have you not seen that we need to implement or start implementing in order to help the youth get into tech and be successful in a career? It's a loaded question, but I want to know from you, from your experience in school, motherhood, right? Because there are people that have gone to school, have their own career, and now they want to get into tech. And your careers in tech, what kind of support, what kind of systems do we not have here in Syracuse that we should implement? Latisia, I'll start with you.
Yeah. So, Liza, let me ask you, are you asking for young people, like children?
Yeah,
or are you asking for, you know, getting people to come here in tech and stay here? Because it's not.
You know what?
A little
We
bit
can
of both?
start with the youth, and
Okay.
I want to start with the youth because we have kids, and again, they are the future. And let's start with the kids.
Yeah. So, so I think that more programming, obviously, that is free. We are in a city that many children in our city, in our inner city in particular, can't afford to take on and pay for programming related to tech or many things outside of just, going to classes and things like that. So free programming, accessible programming, I would recommend like local libraries. I'm a big fan of libraries. My children love them. Things that are accessible, things that you have to consider the community. So you got to think about timing. People work, so you can't have it at 1:00 in the, or 3:00 even in the afternoon. It may need to be late. So I think more programming, I think like that is free, that is accessible. But the main thing, and this is something that I'm very passionate about, is about getting the word out to the people about these activities, because I feel like some of these things may be going on, but the demographic that we need to reach that really are in need of these services and the support and the activities may not have an opportunity to participate because they don't know about it. And so that's, where a little bit of my platform comes in providing that awareness and visibility to some of these things across the city.
What's your platform, Latisia?
Yeah, so my platform is called Urban Tea SYR, and it is a platform where I am engaged in all things cultural, social, economic. I'm just looking for ways to connect the community and make sure that everyone has the right awareness and visibility to think great things that are happening within this city. I see it all the time. I was attending events where I was looking around the room and I wasn't seeing people that look like me, and I'm like, well, why aren't the rest of us here? And one of the issues is that people don't know, like the marketing is not great, and the marketing is over here, and the certain demographics aren't seeing it. Not that they wouldn't take advantage of it, but they're not seeing it. So my platform is all about providing that awareness and visibility to those great things that are happening within the city, so that people can take, different people, diverse people, everybody can take advantage of it, and not just the select few. And then, so go ahead.
Nope, keep going.
No, I was just going to say the other part of my platform is also sharing information on various topics related to the urban community and important to that demographic.
I just wanted to say that as soon as I asked you to share your platform, you were just like, let me tell you about Urban Tea SYR. I can just tell that that's your passion.
It is.
Helping people, connect people to opportunities. So, I was with you before it all started, and I was just like, just do it. And you did it, and the community needs Urban Tea SYR. And I'm just very grateful for you taking it on that and making it happen. And everyone should follow Urban Tea SYR on Facebook, Instagram, and I don't know what else.
Everywhere else.
Everywhere else.
Just in general.
Dr. Erica, I want to ask you the same question as far as attracting people here. What are we missing? I know you mentioned winter, but was it really just winter, or is there more to that?
So I will say, like, from my perspective, I moved there the second time from 8 miles outside of DC. I was in PG County, Maryland. And I went from Verizon Fios to not. And so it was like running headlong into a brick wall. And I'm even running into it some here, like Monroe, even being an hour away from New York City. They have one company that provides internet. I have the highest package. I have 3 kids, a partner, and we all have devices. And there are days I just want to scream and throw my router out the window. So high-speed internet covering, the entire greater Syracuse area is at least helpful, especially now, with Facebook and Google and places like that have said, look, y'all don't have to come back till 2021.
Right.
So start marketing to those people. Hey, great cost of living. If you have high-speed internet, then it's a lot less of an issue for them to be able to reach back, because right now it's hard. It's real hard up there. I had whatever the cable company is that, tries to rip you off every other day. So, it was okay. But again, when you've got 5 people using devices simultaneously, especially now with what's going on with schools, I made the decision for my children to be, all virtual rather than doing hybrid. And so, you know, high-speed internet is my greatest concern. And then another concern for Syracuse is just things to do. Like for those who love the outdoors, it's a great place. For those who love an urban lifestyle, not so much. And it's very far from other places, or even more trains running down to New York City. Like I took a train from there to Chicago one time just for funsies. You know, I took my family on vacation. We're like, let's do the train. But if there were more trains that went down to New York City, I think people might be a little bit more into it, because, you know, New York City can be a day trip. It's a little far, or a weekend trip, but you've got to give people things to do outside of Syracuse, because Syracuse just is not the happening life for, you know, young millennials and Zs who want to go out and meet people and do things and drink a lot.
Yeah. So this is the start of that, Dr. Erica. So I'm going to work on getting you back over here. So you're on the list.
Oh, my kids would love it. They would love to go back. I'm like, you didn't have to clear out the driveway and get all the snow off the car, because my house didn't have a garage. The second one, no garage. So I was out there, you know, cleaning off the van.
So I hear from Megan Dorso, we did get FiOS, and Google Fiber is coming. So
yeah, so there you go.
We have a question that was sent to me privately to Dr. Erica. What opportunities do you see for young people that live in Syracuse to access tech careers through the military enlistment?
So there are plenty of careers. There's the 25 series, which is communications. Some of it is satellite communications. There's cybersecurity, that's a 25 Delta. There's 25 Bravo, which is regular IT. There's 25 Mike, which is more transmissions. So like the people that would operate radio towers for comms to pass through. So we run the whole gamut. I mean, it's basically like having, you know, your own Verizon inside of the military. And then on the cyber side, we've got 17 alphas, which are, you know, computer cyber, and you have offensive cyber operations, defensive cyber operations. And then you also have electronic warfare, which does, you know, the actual squiggly frequencies and how to interfere with that. I don't know anything about that. So there's a ton of options. The most important thing, though, is to pay attention to your science and math curriculum in school, because it's hard to come back from not knowing that, because the way you select your MOS is based on a GT score. That GT score,
MOS.
Oh, your military occupational specialty.
Got it. Okay.
So if you're enlisting, you take something called the ASVAB, the Armed Services Vocational Assessment Battery. And it's a test that tests, you know, your writing skills, your math skills, your science skills, but you have to get a certain minimum score to go into those signal and cyber military occupational specialties. So if you neglect it in school, you're not going to magically know it in time to take this test. So pay attention in math and science. I was not great at math. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't my thing. But, you know, that's the way to get there. Then there's also ROTC. You know, you can go either through ROTC, you can go to West Point. West Point's free. You know, my mom wasn't going to pay for me to go to college. I said, fine, I'm going to go to college for free. And then she didn't want me to go. And I was like, well, you told me you weren't going to pay. I paid with my time. But, yeah, you can go to West Point. You can branch cyber or signal from there. You can go ROTC. There's actually some cyber prep programs that make it more likely that you'll get into the cyber field. So there's tons and tons of options.
I have a few questions. And if you have questions, please send them to me, put them on the chat, whatever's easier. Okay. First, okay, sorry, there's a few. I have a question for Latisia. My company works with P-Tech. Are you familiar with that, Latisia? P-Tech? You are?
I know.
We bring kids from diverse cultures and backgrounds into my company for tours. However, I never see any of the kids come back for job opportunities. What do you think the disconnect could be?
There's lots of things that could be happening. I don't know how old these kids are. Are these high school students, or are they younger people? But to answer the question, I've been kind of I'm a leader, I said, in diversity and inclusion at my company, and have been at other companies as well. And one of the things that I like to see is sort of opening or expanding the box around how you recruit. Um, I think that some of the recruiting practices that we have are a little bit stale. They're old fashioned. We go to the same schools, we go to the same departments every time, and communication, we're going back to communication and marketing, right? You got to go, if you really want diversity, you got to go where diversity is. So one of the things that I had done at a prior company is I had said, okay, when I was in college, I was the leader of an internship program. And I said, when I was in college, I didn't go to career services. I went to the multicultural affairs office. And that's where I hung out. That's where I kind of got my information from, and that kind of thing. And I said, why don't we send our job descriptions there? So I think it's just about thinking differently about how you recruit and how you get people to be interested in your company. Another thing that I've done is a hiring manager just recently reached out to me and said, hey, you're well connected in the area. I have this posting. I'm not getting a lot of local applicants. Can you help me? I send it to NSBE chapter at SU. I send it to the Multicultural Affairs Office. I send it to, various, it's just about thinking outside the box on how you can reach certain individuals, where they might be and who they might be connected to in order to get that diversity that you're looking for. But I think that's part of the issue and part of what we need to change in order to bring on more diversity.
Christina, if you could connect with me, I would love to explore that with you a little bit more. There's a few strategies that we're working on. So I'll get your email at some point. I have another question from the audience. What is the most interesting project you have worked on, and what enabled you to get involved? Not everyone at once.
I'll go ahead and take this one first, since I've been letting Latisia go first for all the other ones. One of my favorites, I was actually a project manager for something called the Host Mitigations Package. Again, back to my passion for helping. It was local. It was a software suite that was local to DoD, Department of Defense computers. And with that program, I was able to kind of cradle to grave it. When I came in, the software had already been selected, but it hadn't been put anywhere. And so I was able to take it through a pilot in a certain location and then get it rolled out across the entire Department of Defense during the time I worked there. And so that was a ton of fun, because often you get projects and programs and you get so far and then they kind of die, or they're not well received. So getting that through and actually on every DoD computer was great. I loved it. It wasn't super technical because the software suite was chosen, but one part of it was application whitelisting, which was a little bit more technical. And it was, going through and watching everything a computer was doing to know what it should be versus what it shouldn't be doing. And you just whitelisted the things it was supposed to do. And it was a really enjoyable experience, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Awesome. Latisia, I'm giving you 1 minute to share.
So I'll just tell you what it was. I won't tell you what it entailed. This is kind of weird, but I had a manager. He was going out on paternity leave. And this is how I got the opportunity, because I was next in line. And my company had acquired a molecule, protein, a therapeutic from another company overseas. And they said typically they would send my manager to go and figure out how to bring this molecule back and manufacture it here in Syracuse. He couldn't go. I got to go. It was amazing. Brought it back and tripled the productivity of that molecule. So it was really a great experience and really opened up the possibility for the things that I could do with my career going forward.
That's awesome. We have 3 minutes. I want to let the audience know that there's going to be a survey that will be sent out for you all to give us some feedback on the speaker series. Again, I want to thank everyone for coming and being part of this conversation. Dr. Erica, you're amazing, and I can't wait to get you back to Syracuse so you can help the youth, have your kids grow up here and love Syracuse. Latisia, you are my friend, my partner. You are amazing, trailblazer, and I'm just very honored and fortunate to have you both on this panel today. Before we leave, please stay connected with us. We have a lot more coming. On the screen, you see some links that you can go to. I don't think you can click through them. I don't think Zoom has that capability yet. But please go to CenterStateCEO.com and explore everything that we have on the website. Again, stay connected to us. You can email us at generationnext@CenterStateCEO.com. If you are a tech company or a tech individual on this call, I want to connect with you. So please connect with me by emailing generationnext@CenterStateCEO.com. I'll also drop my email. We are working on many things, many exciting things here in Syracuse as tech focused. That's employment opportunities and a lot more. So please, please, please stay connected to us. 1 minute left. Dr. Erica, Latisia, before you leave, what is one thing you would tell the youth about tech and going for it?
Don't be afraid.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, don't be afraid.
Okay.
Even if it looks like uncharted territories, just start it.
Or if you're afraid, do it with fear.
Anyway. Yeah, do it anyway. Do it afraid.
Do it afraid. Dr. Erica?
So you can do anything you put your mind to, and don't let anybody tell you you don't belong in that room. Know who you are, be confident, and be there. That's it.
I'm taking those words with me and I'm going to apply it. I appreciate you both. Thank you so much, and we'll keep in touch. Take care, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.